digital governance, a topic that relates to the systems, the policies and principles that guide how technologies shape our societies. As digital transformation accelerates, so do the risks of fragmentation between regions, between sectors, and even citizens. Today's discussion brings together three distinct perspectives: global policy, private innovation, and democratic discourse. And together we'll explore how Italy and Europe can shape digital governance that not only drives innovation, but it also delivers public value and builds systems that are inclusive, efficient, ethical, and resilient. Together we'll look at global trends, long-term strategies, talent and inclusion, the role of business, and the responsibilities of media in a rapidly evolving digital world. The goal is to understand how digital governance can become a force not of division, but of integrity, connection, and shared progress. To delve into these matters, we have an extraordinary panel who joined us to bring deep insights and diverse perspectives. So we have Vincenzo Acquaro, Chief of Digital Government at the DPIDG, at the Department of Economic and Social Affairs at the UN, who brings a global view on how digital policy can promote collaboration and will present best practices for building effective and inclusive digital services. We have Riccardo Forlenza, Global Managing Director for Financial Services at IBM, offering a strategic industry perspective on how digital infrastructure and innovation can support resilience and integration. And then Gianni Riotta, journalist and professor at Princeton University, whose work explores the intersections of technology, truth, and democratic discourse. Together, we'll dig into what it means to build not just smart policies, but resilient and democratic digital futures. So I would say let's dive in and let's start. I would like to start with you, Vincenzo, about the global landscape that you and your team at the UN draw every year, every 2 years, right? By working on the e-government survey. Over the past 14 years, in fact, you have led this assessment of digital governance across all 193 member states. Based on the latest findings, how would you describe the current state of digital transformation across regions? And where does Europe and Italy stand within this evolving global landscape?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for first for inviting me, and it's a great pleasure also to share this stage with these very prestigious colleagues here. Yes, I am in charge of in the Division of Public Institution and Digital Government on digital government issues, and we issue every 2 years. Well, we do not only issue; we first collect, and then we analyze all data for all member states, 193 countries. That's why we take at the end 2 years to publish, because it's really not possible to do every year. And we produce this report that is still one of the flagship for UN, and one of the most downloaded report that is a strong reference for governments, for academia, on digital government and on digital transformation. So the last one was launched during the General Assembly last September, and just the opening of the Summit of the Future. And I want to share with you some first global trend, starting with the leading region. The leading region is still Europe. From the beginning, the UN started this exercise in 2001. And then after that, almost every 2 years, at the beginning it was a pilot, but then every 2 years we start doing systematically. And since that, Europe was leading, and one of the key reasons was because of the really strong policy leadership from the European Union. There was really boosting and providing not only guidance, but really also funding many of the digital government initiatives in the region. So far, Europe is still leading, and this is a problem. So another issue is about, and now it's a little bit more on technicality, the digital government that have more succeed, that succeed the most, are the ones that are that have a clear digital ID policy. So, and not only policy, they implement the digital ID. And for example, many countries in the world, they take this directly from the private sector, and they are using what the bank already have implemented. They have embedded to access all the digital systems at the public sector. But so the digital ID so digital identity is extremely important. And of course, this is even much more important for countries that are very low, because even they have a problem of legal identity. So digital identity can help also to identify the population there. And I'm talking more about Africa. And then we have data centricity, and so what Gianni was saying is extremely important, because also one thing is an opinion, one thing is that you have to take decision, or you have to provide services based on data. If the data are not reliable, if they are not correct, or even there are fake data that can really bring to situations that are really terrible. Another one is about digital literacy. And this is, I think, we will discuss more on this, but again, governments that invest on digital literacy, that is not about computer savvy or becomes familiar with using technology, but starting from the looking at all the educational cycle, and looking more on STI, so the science and technology information, but also looking at the STEM, and really investing in this, but at the same time also requalifying the civil servants that work for the government, because also there is an important issue what you do with and for example, a big issue in Italy is that first of all, it's an old population in general, but the civil servant, the youngest one maybe has 45, 50 years old. So there is a problem that I have my daughter that almost at your age used to, she used to be also part of the Italian society in London. And now she works for the UK government. And all the colleagues that are even high level, people not older than 36, 30, for 40 you are already older. And so this kind of issues also, if you have a civil servant that you can have people our age, we can do a lot, but still you need to create this kind of. And last but not least is about the infrastructure. So infrastructure is really important, and this is still a big issue in Italy, because the infrastructure means about resilient infrastructure, means interoperability among different institutions at local level. I'll give you just a simple example. In New York, I'm married with my wife. That's because I'm married in New York.
In Rome, who are you married to?
Exactly. In Rome, I'm still married with my first wife. But in my own time, I'm single. And I ask, how I recognize this? Because I had to sell my apartment in Rome, and I will start asking a document. So the easiest way, call my mother, I said, please go to Bali, I'm from Bali, and then I realized that I was still, single. And then I said, okay, I go to Rome. And then I realized, but what I'm saying here is not I have 3 legal official documents, they say 3 different things. So you can imagine what you can do with the legal. So this is the problem. There is no interoperability, there are different systems, and again, data issues, data security, data management, infrastructure, leadership, and so on. And I stop here because I do believe.
Thank you for this digression. We loved it. Amazing. But so we would like to move forward with a business perspective. Yeah, I think they want to react. We can add a couple of, and maybe the audience wants to react later on this. So the pace of digital change is accelerating, and public concerns about biases, access, accountability, right? So from a business perspective, what are the role that tech industries and finance as well should play in building digital systems that are not only efficient, but also fair and trustworthy, in your opinion?
What's the rule? Alright, so is on the record? No, because if it was not on the record, I would have spared the name of the commissioner. But since it's on the record, say Scorza. Because Mr. Scorza, Professor Scorza, whatever Scorza, he said, like, have you ever read about a server called Opera? You link through Opera and you go on ChatGPT. Have you ever read about VPN? I mean, you simply, get a VPN and then you can watch a soccer match here or there. So, the authority was still thinking like in the legendary novel Promessi Sposi. I say this is forbidden. This is like, no, you can't access this, and people will not access. So the problem with the citizen is that the citizen is not passive. The citizen is very often much ahead of the legislator or of the bureaucracy, and very often even of the business people. Because the business people, if you work at Microsoft, IBM, the giants of technology, of course you have a business model, you have investment, you have plans for 2, 3, 4 years, and so you stick to that. In the meantime, something new, by the time you get hold of it, the public opinion is already past you. This is great. This is great. At the same time, this is very difficult to manage because when we discuss in this kind of academic format, we always assume that the entrepreneurs are kind of the politicians are like a little corrupt, the journalists are old-fashioned, and then the citizen, that's the citizens are the good guy. Bullshit. The citizens they love disinformation. They love information that is not correct. There are not good guys and bad guys. If there wasn't a demand for disinformation would not sell. The reason why disinformation sells so briskly, like hotcakes, they say in this country, is because people love it. People love it. And so it's very difficult, and in a way we have to rethink the idea of citizenship, and because as a citizen you're responsible for certain things. If IBM sells you a computer and says that this computer can do certain things, and then it cannot, you are entitled to a refund. If you buy a yogurt that says that it will expire December 1st and then is already rotten, you can get a refund. The same kind of watermark has to apply to our information. The First Amendment was a fantastic 19th century invention, but we have to realize that we have to tell people, you can be sure of this, but of this, you cannot be sure. Once you say this, people always react, oh, this is Orwell, the Minister of Truth, Okay, that was a great novel, 1984, a while ago. Alternative of having some kind of watermark on what is true is that people die and then democracy dies.
Thank you. So, Vincenzo, you want to react to this topic quickly?
Yes, no, just first, really thanks for Really thanks, John, for this very interesting, also provocative. But going back on digital government, one of the key business drivers that I missed, but the reason why I missed because I wanted to talk in the second part of this, is about digital participation that is strongly linked with the citizens. So again, based on the data, so what we have observed in 20 years at different countries, the countries are more advanced on digital transformation, and when said this matter is all, is an ecosystem. So you also have all the economy that's moved, linked with the digital, so digital economy, so far. But when we talk about citizen engagement, means that there are systems that really, there are governments that really are open to the citizens in terms of first providing the right information and and not just opinions, and so this is the first part, what we call e-information. Then the second part is about e-consultation. They are really open to listen to the citizens. It depends which level of the government, central, regional, local, but they are open with polls, but also with different mechanisms, and they collect really input, feedback, complaints, and also we measure the countries that provide also this kind of services where you can, even in an anonymous way, you can address your complaint or you can make your proposal. And then the third one, decision making. So based on the input provided by citizens, the different level of government, they start doing and changing or fixing some problems, or in some cases, for example, at the local level,
For you to add to your talent. Pretty much, if you're fast to run the 100 meters race, you can train, but of course there is like an innate dose of virtue there. The same thing with your talent for math, your talent for writing and stuff. Character, you can always work. The idea that you're born with character is nonsense. You can change your character every day, no matter how old you are. People have experience that can change their character for good, for bad, and you can work on your character. So when you work on your list of what to do, enjoy your talents and God bless you and your talent, but sweat on the character, see what doesn't work in your character and discard it, and you can do it, and assume things that work better and transform your character. I very briefly answer your question. I'm terrified of our moderator, so I will never say that, because at the end she will send me the test tomorrow and say that you have B- because you didn't answer the last question. Technology transforms us, and what we don't understand or we don't accept is that we think that we are in control of technology, and we are not. You said computer do not think, okay? But if I was like the riottoso means riotous in Italian, I would ask you, do people think? Do people think? Do real people think? Not the card, cogito, ego sum, no. Do real people think? And if we start quizzing and checking, what do you think? What is the definition of human thinking? We enter a realm. There's now neuroscience that is growing. We enter a realm that is kind of very, tricky. So I agree that machine do not think yet, but I have no problem that they may think and that they can reproduce the way we think that we're thinking. The Italian writer, I'm done with this. The Italian writer, where is Principe? Where is Principe? Is Principe in the room? Yeah, confess. With his dad, we spent like hours discussing this, and his father even wrote a great book about this. In 1967, the Italian writer Italo Calvino gave a lecture in Turin, you find it in English on the web, Cybernetics and Ghosts, detailing how machine will write novels with an algorithm for machines to write novels. It's very brief, read it, and this was like a visionary. 5 years earlier, 1962, and this I say for you, with a computer, an IBM computer at the Cassa di Risparmio, a bank in Milan, the Italian poet Nanni Balestrini wrote the first known computer on a poem on a computer, writing an algorithm that you can find online, take Mark II, take Mark I, take Mark II. And when people trash the poem, say like, this is like, it's so bad. I mean, you use this fantastic computer that costs milioni di lire for such a lousy computer. The answer of Balestrini has been mesmerizing me since I first read it, when I was like pretty much ready. It's like, I don't know if the poem is good or bad, but I wasn't looking for Dante or Petrarca or TSA. I was looking for the voice of the machine. La voce della macchina. I wasn't looking for another poem written by him. I was looking for the voice of the machine. So that's where we are today. We are like entertaining this area of finding the voice of the machine, and then it's up to us to decide whether this voice of the machine will help us or will dictate orders to us.
Thank you very much for this
Grazie a lei.
insightful conversation. Time for one question if there's anybody from the audience. Ooh, okay. So you can ask it from your own seat, so you're welcome to. I think we have a few minutes, but I'd like to do that.
Does this work? Yeah, kind of. Okay. Thank you very much for an engaging discussion. We talked about digital mechanisms as a medium for regional integration, but I was wondering whether you could perhaps touch on the issue within the sphere of cyber resilience, and specifically the importance of cyber resilience for encompassing it for regional integration, how private and public partnerships can be pursued, and also for the professor, what is the role of the citizen within this new work? Thank you.
I mean, I'll give you a technical answer, not a policy-making answer. Just tell you what we do for work, and I don't know if that addresses your question, but I'll do my best. So, cyber resilience is critical to what we do, right? You've seen what happened just a couple of years ago with the one algorithm that brought the world to its knees. A couple of months ago, a small company run by somebody I know ended up bringing the world to its knees. Nobody could trade, and it was a disaster, right? So finding ways to be very pointed in what we do is critical. That said, I actually view that as a barrier to integration rather than the other way around. Everybody's concerned about that integration will mean propagation of the same ill or the same virus, whatever affected you in the first place, right? So it's also a balancing act between wanting to integrate, to share better practices, and fearing contamination from a source of integration. So very, very at the forefront of everybody's. Right now, I argue that the interesting, if I were to look a little past the tip of our noses here, quantum will bring about some very new challenges in cyber resiliency, right? Because as you know, I told you before, the computers think in zeros and ones. Well, not a quantum computer. A quantum computer actually thinks in an undefined state, a state that changes every time you ask the same questions of it, right? And that is why they're as powerful as they are. That said, quantum cryptography will have a very broad impact on cyber resiliency and our ability to defend ourselves from it. I argue that right now a lot of bad agents are collecting data now, knowing that 5 years from now they'll find a way to decrypt it and harm us in ways that we can't even fathom, right? So a lot of dimensions to this, right? I'll tell you, I argue that digital integration will be impacted rather than benefited by our objective of pursuing cyber resiliency.
Okay, so just, we have a few minutes, so go
okay,
for
yeah,
it. Now we'll collect the other two questions.
Quickly, from a policy perspective, more at a global level, As I said last September during the General Assembly, the Secretary General launched the Summit of the Future. One of the key initiatives is about the Global Digital Compact that has one of the main activities that is about partnership among different stakeholders and among countries, of course. But in terms of key elements, the public-private partnership is extremely important, but it's not only that. And then on this, and I think also looking at Europe, recently Mario Draghi presented a report on that was about the challenges that Europe face on competitiveness. And also on digital government, there is an issue of compatibility or interoperability among different platforms. So in reality, Europe is not so connected as would be, and it is also over-regulated. So this is also a problem, especially for the next future.
Thank you so much. So maybe we can collect them super quickly, and then one of the speakers can answer. Sorry, we're done with timing.
Yes, I have a couple of questions, but also some comments. So, with respect to science and what is a fact and what is not a fact, the key one is that I think it is our fault as scientists, is that our fault, but our characteristic, we never say this is absolutely true, because you can't say that. So we always say this is true, if this is true, and don't believe what I say because it may be the opposite. Now, what unfortunate is actually today is the fact that people look for certainties. And so they don't want to answer like, this may be true, or this vaccine can solve the problem. You have to say, this is absolutely true. So the concept of truth is changing radically. Also because you don't want to hear the bad truth, right? So you want to hear the good truth. Now, with respect to this point, it's about the digital leadership and all that. And the point is, our leaders are totally ignorant about what digital is, right? So education is the key point. Now, how do you get there? It's the fact that you have to educate everybody, including the leaders. And so one of the points of the countries that we talk about, Singapore, we talk about Estonia and so on, they are well educated. When I talk to these guys, they know what they're talking about. When I talk to other politicians, they don't even know what I'm talking about. So I think that education is the key point, that we have to stress that. And with that respect, when you say talent is overrated, it depends what you call talent, right? So it's definition. So for me, talent is the person, whatever the person brings to the party, which is a combination of soft talents, like the way in which you interact with people, what you know and what you study, and also the limitation of what you know and what you study.
Thank you. 9 seconds to close.
I just want to say something that was great about Singapore, that when we start discussing about fake news, disinformation at the World Economic Forum 5 years ago, the lady from Singapore was like, I don't understand all these discussions, it's very easy. Government decides fake news or not real news, and then you know, why are you having all these debates? I said, like, she's right.
Thank you again. So